Tonight we'll be in Numbers 16. Korah's rebellion. All I can say is they're at it again, complaining again, gonna go back again. In 14:15, we saw how they were getting closer and closer. Then they had to turn around and go back. And then here in 16, we see they're still learning, still haven't got a hold of things. Well, this chapter 16, Korah's rebellion. One day, Korah, son of Izhar, a descendant of Kohath, son of Levi, conspired with Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Elib, and On, son of Peleth, from the tribe of Reuben. They incited a rebellion against Moses, along with 250 other leaders of the community, all prominent members of the assembly. So they were all well-known people in the community, leaders for different families. People looked up to them and believed them. So Korah, first I'd like to point out these four names that we should always remember. We're going to come up to it later. Korah, Dathan, Abiram, and On. Four people. Okay. And I also want to speak about Korah. Korah is a Levite. The Levites were in charge of carrying around the stuff, all the holy stuff. Whenever they had to move, they would be the ones in charge of carrying. They were appointed and blessed to do that type of work. I just want you guys to remember that. So verse 2, they incited a rebellion against Moses along with 250 others. So like the book of Numbers, these numbers we have to remember, 250 leaders of the community, all prominent members. They united against Moses and Aaron and said, "You have gone too far." The whole community of Israel has been set apart by the Lord, and He is with us all. What right do you have to act as though you are greater than the rest of the Lord's people? So what they're saying is, all of us are holy, all of us are here. Why? They're complaining against Moses and Aaron. And then if we remember back in Numbers 12, this happened once before with Aaron and Miriam. They were complaining, "We are just as holy as you, Moses." And then something happened to them. And then I want you guys to see how Moses is actually going to forgive Aaron. He's not going to even think about that again. He forgave Aaron for that. And he's going to protect Aaron here. When Moses heard what they were saying, he fell face down on the ground. Then he said to Korah and his followers, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will show us who belongs to Him and who is holy. The Lord will allow only those whom He select to enter His own presence. Korah, you and all your followers must prepare incense burners. Light the fires of them in them tomorrow and burn incense before the Lord. Then we will see whom the Lord chooses as His Holy One. You Levites are the ones who have gone too far." And like I was saying, the Levites, they were in charge of the holy stuff. They already had a job. And they kind of thought of their job as being too small, too little. You know, like they wanted to be like Aaron, the priest. But only Aaron and his family were anointed as priests. Only they could actually go into the altar once on the Day of Atonement with that incense burner. They would have to make the whole place smoky, cover the tabernacle. So Moses is telling them, bring their incense burners. But if you are not one of the priests and you go in there with an incense burner, you're not going to make it. You would get burnt up right away. So, and like I said, let's go. Korah, you and your families, followers. So in verse 8, let's pick up. Then Moses spoke again to Korah. Now listen, you Levites. Does it seem insignificant to you that the God of Israel has chosen you from among all the communities? All the communities of Israel to be near him so you can serve in the Lord's tabernacle and to stand before the people to minister to them. Korah, he has already given his special ministry to you, your fellow Levites. Are you now demanding the priesthood as well? The Lord is the one you and your followers are really revolting against. For who is Aaron that you are complaining about him? Then Moses summoned Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, but they replied, "We refuse to come before you." It's like they didn't want to listen to Moses. They didn't respect his leadership anymore. They stated, "We don't have to come up there. Isn't it enough that you brought us out of Egypt, a land flowing with milk and honey?" Look, they're insulting the Lord again. They're saying Egypt was a land of milk and honey. Remember last week we was saying, when you go back, that's bondage and slavery. Not no milk and honey. The land flowing with milk and honey. To kill us here in the wilderness, and that you now treat us like your subjects? What's more, you haven't brought us into any other land flowing with milk and honey. Because in the last chapter you see that they're not going now. They're turned around and going. So it's like they're blaming Moses now, where Moses is the one threw himself down and saved them in that last chapter. And now they're still trying to say it's Moses' fault that they haven't. You haven't given us a new homeland with fields and vineyards. Are you trying to fool these men? We will not come. So they're refusing to come listen to Moses. So then Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, "Do not accept their grain offerings. I have not taken so much as a donkey from them, and I have never hurt a single one of them." And Moses said to Korah, "You and all your followers must come here tomorrow and present yourselves before the Lord. Aaron will also be here. You and each of your 250 followers must prepare an incense burner and put incense on it so you can all present them before the Lord. Aaron will also bring his incense burner." So each of these men prepared an incense burner. They lit the fire, placed incense on it, then they all stood at the entrance of the tabernacle with Moses and Aaron. Meanwhile, Korah stirred up entire community against Moses and Aaron. The entire community. There was only one community at that time. So it's like Korah went behind and got everyone to join him against Moses. So meanwhile, Korah stirred up the entire community against Moses and Aaron. And they all gathered at the tabernacle entrance. And like the last chapter, when you go against the Lord's people, he steps up and protects them. So right here, the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to the whole community. It was like, and the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Get away from these people so that I may instantly destroy them." But Moses and Aaron, what do they do again? They fall face down on the ground. They're always not thinking of themselves. They're just thinking of the Lord and His glory. So they're face down on the ground again, pleading, "Oh God," they plead, "you are the God who gives breath to all creatures. Must you be angry with all the people when only one man sins?" And the Lord said to Moses, "Then tell all the people to get away from the tents of Korah and Dathan and Abiram." I want to say, there's only 3 names. Remember I told you guys, remember in the beginning, the 4 names? There's Korah, Dathan, Abiram, and there's one name not mentioned. On, he must have woke up in between somewhere and said, hey, I better not. Sounded good at first, what they were talking about, but yeah, he stepped back, and he's never mentioned again. So you see, like the Lord has grace, and he didn't hold anything against him. So Moses got up and rushed. He rushed to the tents. Moses knew. It's like he had a feeling. Moses got up and rushed over to the tents of Dathan and Abiram, followed by the elders of Israel. Quick, he told the people, get away from the tents of these wicked men. Remember this too, wicked men. And don't touch anything that belongs to them. If you do, you will be destroyed for their sins. So all the people they stood back from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abram. I want to share something else from here. We always find little bits in another chapter, so you guys don't have to turn there, but I'll read it. 3 John. In 3 John, we'll see something. I wrote to the church about this, but Diotrephes, I don't know if I'm saying that his name right, Diotrephes, who loves to be the leader. He loves to be the first. Refuse to have anything to do with us. When I come, I will report some of the things he is doing and the evil accusations he is making against us. Not only does he refuse to welcome traveling teachers, he also tells others not to help them. Remember that those who do good prove that they are God's children, and those who do evil prove that they do not know God. And then here again in Titus 3 verse 10, if people are causing divisions among you, give a first and a second warning. After that, have nothing to do with them. For people like that have turned away from the truth, and their own sins condemn them. So as I go back here, get away from the tents of these wicked men, and don't touch anything that belongs to them. If you do, you will die. You will be destroyed for their sins. So all the people stood back from the tents of Korah, Dathan, Abram. Then Dathan and Abram came out, stood at the entrance of their tents, together with their wives, children, and little ones. So it's like they still had defiance in them. They were like, they full on believed that going back to Egypt was a better plan. So they stood out in front with their whole families. And I was looking at this, and you see how the father in a household, like my wife, my sons, they're going to follow me. And I might not always be right, but because they love me, they would follow me. So we have to look at what we're teaching our children and our family and be good examples to them. And later on, I'm going to show how their children actually stepped back, Korah's children. But let's get back into this. And Moses said, this is how you'll know the Lord has sent me to do all these things that I have done. For I have not done them on my own. If these men die a natural death, or if nothing unusual happens, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord does something entirely new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them and all their belongings, and they go down alive to the grave, then you will know that these men were shown contempt for the Lord. He had hardly finished speaking. And at that moment, the words, when the ground suddenly split open beneath them, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the men, along with their households and all of their followers. Whoever stayed next to them went down with them. They were standing with them, and everything they owned. So they went down alive into the grave, along with their belongings. The earth closed over them, and they all vanished from among the people of Israel. All the people around them fled when they heard their screams. The earth will swallow us too. Run. They cried. Then fire blazed from the Lord, burnt up the 250 men. Remember the men with the incense burners? They burnt them all up. And the Lord said to Moses, tell Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, to pull all the incense burners from the fire, for they are holy. Also tell him to scatter the burning coals. I want to go back. Remember I was saying how Korah, I want to talk about Korah, how the Lord had mercy on his kids. If we go back in a few, Numbers 26, but the earth opened up its mouth and swallowed them with Korah, and the fire devoured 250 of the followers. These served as warnings to the entire nation of Israel. However, the sons of Korah did not die that day. So remember I was saying the sons of Korah were looking at their dad. Do I want to be with my family? Do I trust in the Lord? Do I want to be with my family or trust in the Lord? They trusted in the Lord. And the sons of Korah in the future become such an important part. I want to go to, I'll just read it for you guys, don't have to go there. First Chronicles 6. I want to talk about, in Chronicles, the genealogy. We kind of run through this and we don't really pay attention, but I found their names in here. The temple musicians. David appointed the family of Korah as musicians. We go from the clan of Kohath. His genealogy was traced back to Joel. Samuel, the prophet, that was a son of Korah. Elkanah, Jerome, Eliah, Tor. If you keep going down, you'll see Korah. So that was that. And then a lot of the Psalms we sing, I'll mention a few of them. If it wasn't for the sons of Korah, we wouldn't have these beautiful songs. And then Psalm 42, I remember reading this. For the choir director, a psalm from the descendant of Korah. As a deer, me and my wife love to sing this song. As a deer pants for the water, so my heart longs after you. That's one of the great ones. And then 46, Psalm 46, a song of descendants of Korah. God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not fear when the earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. Were they thinking about the past in this when they made this song? About how they lost their families when the earth opened up and swallowed their family? So I think David knew that these people really loved the Lord, that they would do anything for the Lord. That's why he made them in charge of the music. And then Psalm 84 is another one. Descendants of Korah, to be accompanied by strings and instruments. How lovely is thy dwelling place, O Lord of heaven's armies. I long. It's better in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. It's a beautiful song. Okay, back to Numbers 16, verse 36. And the Lord said to Moses, tell Eleazar, son of Aaron. He wanted them to collect all the incense burners. Take the incense burners of these men who have sinned at the cost of their lives, and hammer the metal into a thin sheet to overlay the altar. Since these burners were used in the Lord's presence, they have become holy. Let them serve as a warning to the people of Israel. In the past chapters, maybe he made those tassels with the blue strings so that they would remember what they did. Now, he he made all this into a thin sheet that went on the altar. So the Levites had to carry this around, and every time they looked at it, they would see the incense burners from their family on the altar, and it would remind them of how Aaron's family is the priest. So Eleazar, the priest, collected the 250 bronze incense burners that had been used by the men who died in the fire, and the bronze was hammered into a thin sheet to overlay the altar. This would warn the Israelites that no unauthorized person, no one who was not a descendant of Aaron, should ever enter the Lord's presence to burn incense. If anyone did, the same thing would happen to him as happened to Korah and the followers. So the Lord's instructions to Moses were carried out. And you would think, wow, what just happened was amazing. And we would think it was a lesson. And then we have all this. But guess what? The very next morning, the whole community of Israel began muttering again against Moses and Aaron, saying, "You have killed the Lord's people." As the community gathered to protest against Moses and Aaron, they turned towards the tabernacle and saw the cloud had covered it, and the glorious presence of the Lord appeared. Moses and Aaron stood in front of the tabernacle. They knew something was going to happen. And the Lord said to Moses, "Get away from all these people so that I can instantly destroy them." But Moses and Aaron fell face down on the ground. So humble, Moses. Fell face down. And Moses said to Aaron, every time Moses falls face down, I think the Lord directly tells him something that's going to happen or he needs to do. He has a connection. Because he just turns to Aaron and says, "Quick, take an incense burner and place burning coals on it from the altar. Lay incense on it and carry it out among the people to purify them and make them right with the Lord." And just like that, the Lord's anger is blazing against them. The plague has already begun. Like soon as he talked, the plague started. Aaron did as Moses told him and ran out among the people. The plague had already begun to strike down the people. But Aaron burned the incense and purified the people. He stood between the dead and the living, and the plague stopped. But 14,700 people died in that plague, in addition to those who had died in the affair involving Korah. Then, because the plague had stopped, Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tabernacle. Whew. That was heavy. Then, here in verse 17, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just to reassure to the people that Aaron is the one in charge of being the priest, he told the 12 tribes, "Bring your 12 scepters," those staff. They were mostly made out of wood. Maybe some had metal, I'm not sure. But had 12 of them. And he put them all in the holy tent. And he said, whichever one starts to grow is the one that has the priesthood. And is appointed by the Lord. Not by me, Moses, but by the Lord. The Lord was chosen. So he put them in a tent. And the next day, he would hand them all out and had their names on them. So if you looked at it and had nothing, you knew you wasn't the priest. Take your staff and go. And Aaron's one, it did more than just bloom. It grew leaves, it grew flowers, and then produced almonds. That stick was dead for a while. You don't know how long he'd been carrying it around through the wilderness. That's how unbelievable. And God can just turn something that's dead, like us, into a living, a new, a fresh, fruitful. But like throughout this thing, we have to have that belief. We have to trust in Him and believe in Him. And That's all I have for you guys tonight. I just hope we can look at this in our lives, this story, see it in our lives. Are we learning, or are we still going back and complaining and arguing? I know some days I complain, I argue. I'm getting better every day. I'm learning. I'm a bus driver. I have customers come on with all kinds of issues, sometimes at me. I just look down and I apologize and I try to answer them as best I can. Some days are better than others. But I start my day with the Lord. First step out of bed. Lord, guide me in your ways. Fill me afresh with your spirit. Your will be done, not mine. And it works out better that way. Well, let's close in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you again for this night, for this place that I could come, that we could come and worship and just learn from you, Lord. Learn from our past mistakes and can see how graceful and forgiving you are. And help us men and women here, Lord, to step in the gap, to stand up for others, put our face down, pray for them. Our prayers, our overlapping of prayers, you can see how they're helping. I just thank you and praise you, Lord. Be with us through this week. I just thank you for all you do. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.